Hey everyone, it's Lexie. So in today's video I'll be sharing with you the top 5 books that I read this fall. So I'll be going through all of the books that I read in September, October, and November, and then I will kind of talk more about my top 5. So without further ado, let's get started. So starting out in September, I first read King of Scars by Leigh Bardugo, which I gave a 3.5 out of 5 stars. A Court of Wings and Ruin, which I gave a 5 out of 5 stars. A Court of Frost and Starlight by Sarah J Maas, which I gave a 4 out of 5 stars. And Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter, which I gave a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Moving on into October, I first read A Piece of the World by Christina Cline, which I gave a 3 out of 5 stars. The Shape of Night by Tess Gerritsen, which I also gave a 3 out of 5 stars. And Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, which I gave a 4 out of 5 stars. And then finally moving on into November, I first read The Eighth Sister by Robert Dugoni, which I gave a 4 out of 5 stars. Little Women, which I gave a 2 out of 5 stars. Supernova by Marissa Meyer, which I gave a 5 out of 5 stars, and Lilac Girls by Martha Hall Kelly, which I gave a 5 out of 5 stars as well. So moving on to my top 5 books of this season, I first have to talk about Lilac Girls. So this is a book that I read when it was first published maybe 2 years ago, and I loved it the first time and I completely forgot about it. It was just put on my shelf afterwards, and I read so many World War II historical fiction, I feel like it kind of got overshadowed by the ones that I was currently reading. But me and my aunt read this for our book club, and I forgot how much I loved this author and her writing, and there's something about it that totally sucks you in, and I really enjoyed that. I think for me it was just something so absorbing with it. You can totally lose yourself in this book, in this writing, and we would read about 50-page increments, and I would look up and be like, oh I read over our page limit, because that's how sucked in I was. But basically the premise of this story is that it follows 3 women during the course of World War II. We follow Caroline, who's a socialite in New York, Kazia, who is a Polish woman who gets sent to Ravensbrück, and then we also follow Herta, who is one of the doctors that did the medical experiments at Ravensbrück, and all their stories kind of intertwine, which I think was really good. But like I said, I'm kind of kicking myself because I forgot how much I loved this book, and I highly recommend, if you guys love World War II, I think you guys will really love this one as well. Next, I have the last book in the Renegades trilogy by Marissa Meyer, and I love this trilogy. It's a little bit different for me than what I tend to normally read, in that it's kind of like a fantasy, but it's mixed in with superheroes. And if you like The Incredibles, I think you'll like kind of this trilogy. It's kind of similar to that. But what I really liked particularly about this one, especially with the first two, between Nova and Adrian, it's very much black and white, good and bad, right and wrong. There's no kind of it's either one or the other for them. But this one is when you really kind of see them realize that everything is a mix of gray, and you got to see a lot of character development in here. But yeah, I really was happy with this conclusion, and the epilogue had such a big reveal in it, so I'm interested to see if there's going to be a spin-off from this, because I'm you can't just leave the book there, because that's how good it was. But yeah, like I said, I really was pleasantly surprised by this series, and I think it ended on a very good note. So this was one for me where I was stepping outside of my comfort zone, and it was The Eighth Sister by Robert Dugoni. And this is a spy thriller cat and mouse novel in a sense. I had this one. I read his Tracy Crosswhite series, which I really enjoyed, so I decided to pick up this one, and this is his new series. And basically it follows this former CIA agent who is having some financial trouble, and he is approached by one of his former CIA operatives to go undercover in Russia to find the Eight Sisters. So the CIA has used 7 women known as the Seven Sisters, who are basically spies, Russian citizens, but they're spying for the US, and the Eighth Sister is someone who is revealing the identity of these women to the Russian government, so he has to kind of figure out that. But it was such a really good game of cat and mouse, and I'm not really into that type of genre, even movie wise. I don't really like the James Bond spy thrillery type movies, but this one really took me by surprise. It was incredibly fast paced, and it was just a lot of fun. It was a really good game of cat and mouse. It kind of jumps around in different perspectives, and like I said, I really enjoyed it. Next, this is one that everyone was basically talking about when it came out, and it was Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I Leigh Bardugo is hit or miss for me, but this was her first foray into the adult genre, and I think I liked that side a little bit more than her YA writing. But this one, like I said, took me by surprise. I really loved the kind of dark, twisted reality of this, how it dealt with the occult, but also kind of tied in some of our societal issues in terms of rape culture, kind of feminism and all that. So I really liked that aspect. It was a little bit of a slow burn, and it took me about maybe a third of the book to actually get invested in it, because they don't explain a lot of the world building stuff, and it's a little bit confusing and figuring out all the houses. But other than that, like, I really enjoyed it. It was something different, it was dark, it was twisted, and it did a good job at kind of projecting some of our societal problems into here, so I really liked that. I'm interested to see what the second book has in store, so that one will be fun as well, and I'm really excited for that. And lastly, this was one of my book club picks, and it was Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter. I've never read a Karen Slaughter book, so this was my first foray into her writing. But I was really excited by this. I've heard her books were also, again, very dark and twisted, so I was really excited for this one, so I had high hopes going into it, and I was not let down. The first part did start out very slow. It follows these two sisters who have been estranged for 20 years, ever since their older sister disappeared, and so that's kind of always kind of haunted them with that, until one of the sisters' very affluent, rich husband is murdered. It kind of brings up some of their past issues into that, so it kind of takes off from there. But this one was so dark and twisted, and you're trying to figure what's going on with the characters, and it's like a Criminal Mind episode, but a lot darker and gorier and all that. So if you are into that type of dark genre like that, like a psychological thriller, I think you'll really like this. I definitely want to try more of her books in the future, especially with how much I enjoyed this. So this is definitely an author that I will continue reading into 2020. That's it, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and let me know what some of your favorite books you've read this season and all of that fun stuff. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.